I'm
All
for
right,
sure
welcome
not saying
to
anything now.
another session of the Gunfighter sessions. We got Ned eating dinner. Duke is drawing and dreaming about dinner, and Ephraim's
I'm
hanging
for
out.
sure dreaming about dinner. That's for show. I'm drawing
Ephraim,
a holster.
I think you had some topics you want to hit on today.
Yeah, so just a couple things. One of the things I thought we could possibly look at, just because it comes up so often, and it's the like equipment, supporting things to the business. And I say the business because we all know, if you're really going to get into this, you either are blessed at being at a college with some awesome stuff to work out with, or you have you're purchasing it, and some of the little in between. And so I got to thinking about the first topic was shoes. And I'm not saying go out and buy 30 different pairs of shoes for every little thing that you do, but I was doing some. Yeah. I ain't hating the game. I usually try to
Ephraim is an early adopter,
ammo.
and he pushes the gouge to us. Ephraim's an early adopter. Don't hate.
That's right.
I learned from Jason Crosby, so it's a hard
don't hate player.
Break now. don't hate the play, hate the game.
I have plenty of footwear.
Oh yeah, same here. But I was doing some agility work, and I was talking to Nathan. I was doing some agility work on the gym floor, and I was doing some cuts left and right, and I juked myself right out of some shoes, and I got to thinking. I was like, I wonder if there's a specific type of different types of shoes, different things that people recommend across the board, maybe cross trainers, types of running shoes, what types of, because there's a million ways of thought.
You can't trust marketing anymore. Like everybody's.
Oh,
sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
you're good.
you.
No, exactly. No, you said exactly what I was actually about to say.
Sorry, Sergeant Major. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Just
fired.
Knock out 50 and then come back. So
I can't hear you, Duke. You're not at the front leaning rest right now, so
it's just wild. You don't know what to believe, what to know. Everyone says that this is good, and some say minimalist is good, and that's good, and this is great. And if you've done it a little bit, you kind of find out what works for you. But I thought that could start some conversation into like what works, what we've seen it works, and what are your thoughts on some of it?
Correct.
I think from everything I've seen is that footwear is probably one of the most individualistic items that there is, just because
you got knuckleheads that do it barefoot. I mean,
a lot of guys really like Solomon shoes, and I'm just like, they were small. Like, I didn't find they fit very well. I didn't find the laces stayed on very well. Like, this is kind of like, meh.
Right.
Meh.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one or two Solomons.
Yep. The only ones I can do are the wide ones these days.
Yeah.
I think Solomons are good for about a couple months, and all of a sudden you're like, why am I getting all this toe pain? Why are my toes mashing against the front? And then you I'm going to go to these. And then you look at the internet, and you got like knuckleheads out there squatting barefoot, looking at you, Instagram influencers. And then it's like, that looks painful. Plantar fasciitis. I mean, I think you have a lot of people who are just genetic specimen freaks. Not looking at you, Ephraim, because we know you work hard.
I got genetic flat feet, so don't even talk about me.
But you got genetic also of like the world's greatest metabolism. Don't lie. So, I mean,
maybe.
Yeah. But then, but you got people who are selling things. Nathan, you've said this so many times. You got people who are selling things who, let's just be honest, a lot of things come easy for them. They're not really working. I mean, you look around like, out here kicking it in my home gym, and their home gym is like it's like a $20,000 sponsored Rogue Fitness,
Yeah.
Like, you're really roughing it. Like you haven't lifted a milk jug as a kettlebell in a long time. Let's just put it like that. So,
right?
Yeah.
Like you're not hurting. Stop it.
So I think for footwear for me, and this is again because I think a lot of this stuff is so individual, is that I prefer a barefoot feel for most things. And me and Ephraim were talking about this. The one place where I have non-barefoot type of shoes is when I play street hockey, because I tried doing that in my Zero Prios and I bruised my heel because it was on concrete. And
that
when you're going,
sounds painful.
Yeah. And so you guys know the power output that starts coming out when you start hitting that power phase. Like you're putting out a lot of force into the ground. And so I was going into full speed agility into a hard cut. And I mean, we're talking hundreds of pounds of force. And like that barefoot shoe just wasn't cutting it. So what I ended up going up with, I tried looking at basketball shoes. I tried looking at cross training shoes, and they're all garbage, everything. So what I ended up with was lacrosse shoes that were made for indoor. And, and that for me, because perfect. I looked at street hockey and I'm like, it's the exact same. It's just a different tool. Instead of a stick with a net on it, I have a stick with a blade on it. That's it.
Right. So watch this, Ephraim. You're saying the mission drives the gear train. Hey,
crazy. I heard someone say that before.
Wait, that sounds crazy. Nate, when you said about your feet, all of a sudden I could see those 6 Nigerians with the carrying the casket, you know.
Oh yeah. It was pretty bad.
Rest in peace, Nate's feet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was right after I'd finished like the off-season triphasic that we had, and so I was putting out some power, and I was really fast, really, the short sprints. I was getting a lot of power, a lot of hard cuts. So, I mean, it wasn't like, and the thing was, because I was strong enough, like I didn't have any pain. I didn't have any injury. Speaking of which, I'm at about 95% recovered in 3 weeks. So not too bad on recovery.
Awesome.
But outside of that, I do prefer a barefoot feel just because it stimulates all the right things in the foot. So even my work boots are, I think it's Bellevue makes the Mini Mill.
Yep, so I got the same thing.
Yep. And so I go just to stimulate the foot as often as possible, as frequently as possible, get that stimulation. I have Zeros as my regular shoes, as my gym shoes, that kind of thing. And right now, I think my favorite for gym/training-esque type stuff is probably the 360, just because it's made for the gym and you can do all your agility work, you can do your runs, you can do your workout stuff, and it kind of hits everything you're looking for, with the exception of, like I said, street hockey, where it's just, it needs a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a set of the Prios, and they were just sort of floppy.
Yep.
So I haven't been real impressed with them. But I just picked up a pair of like New Balance minimalist trainers.
Yep.
Okay. They've definitely got some more cushion in there. But so far, I've been pretty happy with those. I need to try running in them in a little bit.
And I got some New Balance trails. They're called trail runners, but they're like a zero drop trail runner. Not zero drop, but they're like a, you know what I mean? Like they're a fresh foam trail runner, but they have like a gum sole, and it's really great on the horse mats and the carpet that my gym has. I'm in the in-between guy. I'm in the local strip mall, ATM, church, Mexican restaurant, sketchy vape shop, dry cleaners, and wait for it, quick fit gym, open 24/7. But I can go up there at 11:30 at night, and I can get it done. Oh wait, also a mattress store and a Pizza Hut.
I'm about to join that literally exact same gym, because the 20-minute drive to base for the gym every day is getting old, especially with $3 gas.
Yep.
So don't hate on that Pizza Hut. I've actually eaten there after a workout. Don't at me, anybody listening.
Post-workout games.
Yep.
But I will say this, that I'm excited to try these No Bull shoes. Because they have the gum sole. They're kind of flat. They're almost like a soccer shoe, but with a little bit more thickness to it. I think they're about one bedazzler away from me questioning life choices, but they look like they have sequins on them because they're kind of glittery. I don't know why, but if someone comes out with, it's CrossFit, because you can't do CrossFit without desperately seeking the attention of others.
Obviously.
I will say this, that if someone comes out with something similar that's more, let's say, serious work oriented, I'm all over it. So but I'm looking for
black
that
spray paint might fix that.
Yeah, but who wants to smell like flammable while you work out? I mean, I'm already heaving from Nathan's programming. Sorry, Cal. I think Cal, his workouts were spawned of the devil.
Well, the funny thing is that
was a joke.
Funny thing is,
settle down.
You haven't even done Cal's hard stuff yet. You've done just like the lead up.
Hey, you don't need to shame me. I used to, when I was doing back in the Jim Jones days, I would like, yes, I just crushed that, and I realized like, holy crap, that was the warm up. And so, hey, Nathan, let me have my victories. Don't take that away from me. Leader of men, come on now. You're supposed to support me.
This is support. I mean, it's like a shoe support.
Hey, right? Fatty, you're not even through the main part of the workouts yet. Like, yeah, I really feel it, Nathan. That's amazing.
So I guess the only other category I would say that there's, so you've got the high agility / sports, you've got the gym / general type shoes, kind of that barefoot. I think the third category is running, just because I've tried it with barefoot type shoes. And even though I've been like physically barefoot, like with no shoes on for a very long time, or I've, trained barefoot or, barefoot shoes, like to me, hard concrete, like, and barefoot shoes just don't go well. So
it just sounds horrible.
Yeah. I think the best bet that I found so far is on trail. I could probably do a barefoot shoe, but I think for concrete, I think it's Ultra's got I think it's the Superior, which is their lowest profile. So it's the lowest stack height. And that one's a trail shoe, but I think that's probably about as good as it gets, just because they have wide toe boxes. They've got all the benefits of zero drop, but their stack height's a little bit less. Like the Ultra Escalane's got a kind of a thick stack height. Not a huge fan of it. It's a little bit too squishy for me. But I think that's about as close as it gets. It's really hard to find that good balance between stack height being low, but at the same time just protecting it just enough.
Right on. Yeah, the best running shoes I found so far, La Sportiva makes a bunch of like mountain style running shoes.
Yep.
And their Bushido, which is a fitting name, that's been like the most comfortable running shoes I found. But the toe box is a little on the narrow side, but they also have super grippy rubber on it, which also means soft rubber that wears out really fast before the rest of the shoe.
Sure.
So I've been through 3 or 4 sets of those in the last couple of years, and I don't run that much. That was getting through EOD prelim the first time, which pretty much destroyed everything. But yeah, those have been my favorites so far. And it's hard finding something else, even though I know I'm not running crazy mountain trails.
Sure.
I still just like how supportive they felt. I knew that the shoe wasn't going to come off my foot.
Sure.
Right on.
So that's another good option away from the Solomons.
Yeah. Ephraim, what have you found for running shoes?
I'm more of a I need the support, especially on my right foot with that no arch on my right side. So I end up usually using I'm one of the rare types that actually likes, well, I guess say rare type. So the green what's the insoles?
Superfeet.
So Superfeet, the green is usually kind of, it's a harder, more rigid one, but I think just all the years of rucking and pounding and not having, soft feet for that matter, I put those in pretty much any running shoe that I have. So I go with a wider toe box, a little bit of drop, like more than a 4 centimeter drop, just because of that. It supports how I run I'm a little more of a 4-foot, mid-foot, 4-foot striker instead of a heel striker. So lean forward more on the stride itself. So lately I've been using a New Balance or a Saucony. just a running, like a longer distance running shoe. I'm not a fan of what are those Hokas and stuff like that. I mean, they're super spongy and everything. That ends up, I think I don't know if my joints just don't like it. My feet end up feel great, but like my hip and knees kind of are just like, and I don't have knee problems. So when my knees are kind of sore from something, it's like, oh, well, I gotta review that. Something went wrong. So I just kind of listen to the body, whatever feels great. The biggest thing is the toe box. Ultras, as you said, I've played around with ultras. I just could never get. I think I had bad luck with ultras, or maybe that's just how they are. They just never seem to last too long. Like I would burn through them. So as weird as, again, you got to listen to your body, right? So I'm surprised I'm bow-legged. So what happens is with this flat foot, I run across you look at my shoes. If you look at the most amount of wear on my shoes, it's almost exactly a straight line from the outside heel to the toe, to the big toe. So you can run a straight line across from it. And that's where I run. That's where I burn through some shoes. Even though I pronate slightly due to the flat foot, the bow-legged side makes it roll to the outside first. So it's just really weird. Again, a lot of trial and error on that one to try to figure out what works, what doesn't cause any pain or anything like that as well. But that's been the biggest problem. So when I find a running shoe that works, I buy like 2 pairs right away. so that I know that because as sure all of us have seen from year to year, sometimes the same shoe model changes slightly or sometimes significantly in its composition, how it fits, etc. So
you feel like your favorite taco stand just burned down when you change the shoe.
You're like, exactly. It's like
dude, what did you do that for?
Oh, I just had that terrible feeling just last week. Went to my favorite, finally found this amazing Puerto Rican joint. They had everything perfect. They had grandma in the back making all the food. And I go to
Abuela!
I went to take a new soldier there. Bam, they had closed down. I was so sad. Oh, so sad. It's like, you guys didn't even tell me. I would have single-handedly donated to keep you open.
Right?
I'll cover the payroll in order to keep you open.
What do I need to do to make you a dependent from me for the military?
Right, BAH for everybody.
Yep.
10 dependents, whatever.
Yep.
Now, I got a question. You guys keep using this word, and I need you to explain it. What is this thing called running? Everybody keeps talking about. That sounds unpleasant.
Well,
it means like you're about to find out, Mr. Cal. Try facing number 2.
20 or 40 minutes a day that I hate my life.
I had a pretty good run today. I was able to, for the first time, really pace it out. I was really, Duke, you got to know, like, this running thing to Nathan's specifications have been kicking my ass, because I dislike running as much as I do it.
I know, you sent me the pictures. You're like seeing over to the other side. You're like, I think I just saw my ancestors.
Cuckoo! So I just try to get it done as fast as possible. Try to get it done as fast as possible. And Nathan's like, no, you got to stay in aerobic
for
level.
60 minutes.
You can't go any faster. Bitch, I don't want to run that much.
I'm right there with you.
I don't want to die.
I've been doing a lot of those lately too. Just like, so this is my life now. Oh, good. We're 10 minutes in.
Terrible.
That's where you turn on that's where you turn on the podcast and just kind of go.
That's what I did. I finished an audiobook. I almost had an existential crisis because it ended sooner than my run, and I was like, so I was trying to find, my heart rate started going up. I was like, slow it down. Trying to figure out my new audiobook, and my heart rate's getting mad because I can't figure it out.
It's interesting to see your heart rate change when something like just drinking water, for like 3 seconds, and then all of a sudden you see the spike. You're like, hey, like, I just drank some water. Like, I shouldn't go up 20 beats per minute. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're finally giving us nutrients that we need.
Yes.
So exciting.
process. So
that sounds terrible.
Have you found with the runs that the sprained ankle stuff has started to, at least on that 1 foot, has that helped out at all?
Absolutely. So the one thing I will say, so I've always, again, that ankle has created mobility issues, even in normal squatting. I could never get the depth required for a proper form. And because of that, it was not allowing me to truly activate my glutes as I needed to press out and everything, which would then inevitably cause me to use my hamstring and groin even a little bit. So secondary internal leg muscles to push out, for squatting. And this movement stuff has really absolutely helped out. One thing that's also helped is my balance on it a bit. So that side has not a lot of balance because of that, that non-connection of that tendon. But all the other stuff that is connected is getting stronger to keep me upright. So I absolutely. So there's not any pain in the ankles or anything with that, even with movement, more sure-footed in that. Also with where I saw a difference was split squat stuff. So split squat, I can get the depth, no problem. I can get, I had some good weight that I thought for the first time because I've never really tested it hard, but I was never stable without really kicking my leg out to, either side a bit more than in line, so almost like a 45-degree angle to the left or to the right, whatever leg was back to keep that balance. But now I have the strength to keep more in line, hip length, hip width, all the way back for that split squat itself, without having any big instability trying to fall over or whatever. So
that makes me feel a whole lot better.
That's really good. It's hard. No, that's been one thing that I haven't skipped whatsoever. When I have those days for my ankle, that's been huge for me, I think.
I do split squats at night when there's no one else in the gym, because I also go at like around 11 o'clock because I can have the place to myself, so I can run between like doing dumbbells to do this, awesome. to do like you have the whole place to yourself. And so I've also been doing split squats at night as well, and as the program is called for it. And I'm looking around like, I hope nobody saw that I almost just fell over, like I'm learning to walk for the first time in my life. And so I wasn't going to bring it up, but thanks for going first. And I was like, oh, so it's not just me. The human specimen is also, finding split squats challenging, including to say them out loud. That made me feel like, well, hey, thanks, man. You made me feel some love over here.
Yeah, no, I really don't. I just wanted to see what you were going to say just to help you out.
Yeah, no, dude, you're a total baby giraffe right now, and National Geographic's going to come follow you.
That's awesome. Got my Bambi leg tonight.
Yeah. Baby giraffe.
That's awesome.
That's how that's going to go.
No, I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan of those. Like I said, I got to buy, I asked the gym to buy a split safety bar.
Yep.
That's cool.
But they will. So they're already talking about it for this order up period. So I'm down.
I tried using one of like the curved Duffalo style bars the other night for like heavy single leg squats. I don't recommend it.
Right on.
Well, and I was trying to do like the Hatfield style where you kind of like have your arms out in front to support.
Yep.
And just like the cognitive and ab stability to try and stabilize that thing and not just have it fall off my back. I did like 3 sets and I was smoked. I was like, all right, well, that was stupid. We're not doing that again. But I soldiered through for as much as I could handle.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so, it's I guess I've been lucky. So most of the Air Force bases that I typically am around, they typically have safety squat bars for whatever reason. And then the UFC gym that I have a membership at also has the safety squat bar. Now, when I can't find one, I'll try to do it with a barbell. It kind of sucks because you can't go hands-free. But then you could also it's hard, but if you can get dumbbells heavy enough, that's another option. It's not great, but it's another option.
Yep. Right on. It hasn't been too terrible with just the regular barbell.
Yep.
So it's there. Obviously, there. It's not optimal, but it's there, and I haven't. I think it's going to limit here in a bit. It's probably going to limit if we don't get one. It's going to limit, weight and ability to do some of the stuff. But I think, like I said, they said they were going to get one, so they've never failed so far. So
I think the biggest advantage is for especially the eccentric and isometric phases where you can hold on to something and the safety squat bar will just kind of hang out there is kind of the biggest benefit.
Yeah, and that's what I was finding with that Duffalo bars. I think there were sets of 10. Like the first 4 or 5 weren't bad, and then eventually it would start kind of like rolling one way, and you're just kind of like in this weird half twisted position. You're like, nothing hurts yet. I think this is okay.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of crazy how fast the strength on that split squat goes up, though. I mean, it starts off kind of weak, and you're like, this kind of sucks, and then a month later, you're like 100 pounds heavier. You're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100 pounds heavier a month later. Sure.
You just got to do it.
There was a funny story about Jack Nicklaus, the famous golfer, and they asked him about Tiger Woods. Back in I'm sure you guys are enough of an athlete to know, and like when Woods was at his apex, no one could touch him. And most of the fit golfers you see now are like second and third order effects of the Tiger Woods effect. Athletes, guys who are just phenomenal in the gym going out and now uncorking on a driving range. So anyway, they asked Jack Nicklaus about it, and he just got this faraway look. He goes, Tiger is playing on a level that I'm unfamiliar with. And it just kind of like left it there to marinate. Like, here's the guy who has the most major wins in history. And he's kind of looking at what Tiger's doing. It's like going, yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about. And he's talking about getting an extra 30 yards for this and tilting his club face like this. He's just playing at a level that I don't really have any familiarization with. And that kind of just stuck with me. So when Nathan talks about some athletic stuff, as far as I sit there, just smile and nod and like, Nathan, I lost track of you about easily 3 paragraphs ago. So I guess Nathan brought me on for the other mortals who are listening going like, hey, I'm glad someone said something because I didn't really know what they were talking about either. Some of this you have to learn by experience, and I get that. I get it. Just have to learn by experience. So
I do wish, or sooner or later, get some people in on it to do some of the partner assist.
For sure.
Items because I haven't been able to here. I got a new boss in. You'll dig him a lot when you come out here, Nathan.
Cool.
He's the guy who ran the guard implementation of H2F. Major Short, Ryan Short. So he's going to be the deputy chief of staff here. But good solid guy, super solid guy, and he definitely will join the crew to do some stuff. So bring him to the fold here shortly. He just in process today. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Our state's doing some crazy stuff, so I may. I don't know. I think the gal that I'm waiting on to come back. She may be back sometime in January, so hopefully I can make it out then.
Yeah. Nope. No issues. Can or can't. That's cool. It's held for you. So for you have first right of refusal. So. Yeah.
Well, I
that's
think
pretty cool though.
Too. I mean, I don't know. Me and Evan talked a lot about a lot of this stuff, and I think there's definitely there's a lot of stuff that we can get into for sure. I mean, just looking at the 4 coactive model, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with it. I think Ned is a little bit, but looking at, how do we even look at the physical as an integration of the tactical, the technical, and the psychological? Like, we talk about it, but we don't really actually integrate it very well.
Yeah. Yep.
Just from an outsider's perspective for everyday life, I found myself physically reaching for things that weren't there. And my brain was like, trying to give me a warning light, like, hey, there's nothing here for you to draw on. And then after now training with you since late March or early April, now reach for things and like, whoa, where'd that come from? For instance, like, I was having real trouble doing full range of motion on pull-ups, which I didn't know was a thing. Like, you can go almost all the way up, but making that last full means, all right, CrossFitters, pay attention. A full range of motion pull-up means that the pull-up bar goes to your chest, not underneath your chin, right? Like, almost like you're starting
Marine
from a
Corps
bench press position. Yeah, thank you. Well, whoever. I'll take your word for it. But I couldn't get that last 25%. And so Nathan, to his credit, never had me do a single pull-up. He had me doing like these, man, I felt I was the biggest. He's like, do these band rows. I'm like, band rows? I'm a guy. That's what the ladies come in and do the yoga and with the pants and the leg warmers do. I'm like, okay. But I was like, hey, trust the process, right? And then I realized about 2-3 months into it, it's like, oh, he's rebuilding me to be able to do pull-ups. And so all of a sudden the other day, he's like, I was like, all right, I'm going to do them. I don't want Nathan to ask. And I don't want to have, I can't lie. I don't lie. So I'm going to have to, don't want to tell him, like, I kind of blew him off, Nathan. So I did these, what do you call them? Bar rows, where you basically lay in
reverse row.
Yeah, the reverse row. Thank you.
Yep.
And after doing the band rows and the other things and the deadlifts and all the other things, all of a sudden it all came together. Full range of motion was easy. And I was like, holy smacks, this is amazing.
That's cool.
I was like, Nathan, you did it. You put me back together. Gentlemen, we can rebuild it. Better, fitter, thinner, stronger, faster. And it was just like using that as a somewhat embarrassing story, but being able to have it be there when you needed it, that was pretty great. And I was like, well, hey, what else can we do and keep building for? Because my whole reason for starting to work out with Nathan was just like, I have a pretty hectic schedule. I don't want to die early. I have a lot to do. And that's very overrated. And I want to be around to do this stuff. So being able to be rebuilt and then have like your have a necessity that you reach for and have it all of a sudden be there. Like, man, that was great to be able to do full range of motion when it was necessary and not having all the components be there. So that's just the average everyday earth person's perspective on what you just said.
Well, it's kind of interesting too. Like a lot of the sports have gotten into the longevity kind of goes out the window because they're like, oh, we have to win at sports. But some of the higher level organizations are like, if we actually support longevity, chances of their performance being fairly high are still pretty good. I mean, you can have somebody who's so game smart. So like in hockey, they call it, hockey sense, or, they have good eyes in the ice. That guy is going to be much more productive than the kid who just smashes himself and he's really fit. So there's just that, if you have that longevity, it means you can build that experience to get better hockey sense, to get better on the ice, get better eyes, things like that. And you start picking up on the game faster and you don't have to be as fast. Although with some of this stuff, I mean, me and Ephraim are in our 40s and like, we're not having a problem doing stuff that's basically D1 collegiate level stuff.
Guys, I feel better now at 47 than I did at 37. And dare I say even 27. I was sore all the time. I knew nothing about recovery. I didn't know to work smaller components in the muscle group to get more performance out of the major muscle group. I didn't know any of that. I just did whatever was cool because I wanted to look good for the ladies and meet a hot wife, which I did. And then
mission accomplished.
Bless her heart. Mission accomplished. And then you're like, hey, I'll take 6 pizzas. Who cares? Because I was woohoo. And then but then now it's like exactly. And so Nathan, when you were telling about Cal's working that one team that did his RPR, and they had like there was a football team. They had 0 injuries out of the year. Imagine being able to be the 12th game of the season. Look at the Baltimore Ravens right now. They have 16 starters out for injuries. 16.
Yep.
They have like, there's some positions that they have no starting starters left. And it's only the 6th game of the regular season. Imagine being in your 12th week of the season and you don't have any major injuries. There was a thing about Clemson years ago because they played such, I'm going to say it, non-physically demanding teams in the Atlantic Coastal Conference. They were able to be healthy by the time the playoffs rolled around, or, you know, by the championships rolled around. And imagine having all of your people there and having, you know, minimal injuries, if any, because you built up to be injury and immunity to injury. That's amazing.
Yeah. And you see that like it's really coming into play in sports like hockey, where you have 82 games, plus you may have upwards of, you know, 27 plus playoff games on top of it. So you're looking at over 100 games for a championship team. Like, you're going to have some type of contact injuries in there just because of concussions and like getting smashed in the boards and stuff like that. But the more you can resist that throughout the entire season, I mean, you can just keep that consistency. And that's the big thing about an 82 game season, is you have to be consistent every week. If you have, you know, a couple bad weeks, like that may toss off your entire chance at a playoff spot.
Yep. Correct. Brady, they said, I mean, forgive me for stumping about Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II, but not that I like him or anything at all.
When you said that?
I don't do that to men. I'm not the Pope, so, you know, but he's not the Pope. Take your pick. But he said that he went from working out just the smash and push and pull workouts years ago when he realized he wanted to play into his late 30s and 40s, and he went into more of flexibility and longevity, and then he went on to win 4 more championships. So that longevity thing is highly underrated.
You know,
I have to agree.
Something I was listening to today on a podcast with Buddy Morris. He's the Arizona Cardinals strength coach. Is that he was talking about the end of the season where guys either go into the playoffs or don't go in the playoffs. Either way, he's got a program specifically to off-ramp these dudes. Because, you know, as he says, you know, you're sympathetic the entire season, just go. And if you just hit that wall at the end, like, your body's just going to crash hard. So what he does is he just does spike tempos, you know, where you do a 30-second sprint and then, you know, do some push-ups as active recovery, you know, just kind of do that for every other day for the last 2 weeks while they're still with him before the off season. It's something that we don't account for on deployments. And Ephraim, you could probably speak to this, is that we don't have really an off ramp other than like, hey, just go to Kuwait and chill out the pool. Because that's what they did for me in 2017. I'm like, bro, I've still got work to do. Like, I could be working and doing a transition period, but instead they're just like, no, go hang out. I'm like, okay. And it was just, I didn't feel it was a good transition. And I think that's so frequent where it's just like, all right, cool, you're done. Now go relax. I'm like, no, I can't just shut it off, dude. Like your brain is working, and you know, you're coming up with ideas. Like,
I think it's even worse too. So it's when you're talking about you, right? And you understand it. When we have 90% of the people who don't even understand that down ramp or how to even do it, we go that, you know, that Ranger rebound, if you would. And let's go eat everything. Let's chill out. Let's not do anything whatsoever with our minds, our bodies, or anything. You're off. So, you know, lay. Now we're eating, we're laying, and we're playing video games nonstop, and, you know, catching up on time. Which, you know, it's good to catch up on some rest.
So, are you guys physically? Are you kind of like? Forgive me, I didn't mean to cut you off at the end.
No.
Are you guys like physically describing like coming off a high tempo, high activity period, but using an analogy or a metaphor, Nathan, when you had to make that hard cut, when you were playing hockey and you hurt your knee, and like, cause you stopped so short and like you didn't slow down, you just stopped and you were like, ugh. Is that similar to what you're talking about here with the activity, you know, as a whole? Like you're coming to a hard stop and not tapering off and not allowing your body to have like basically a slowdown.
Deceleration.
Is that
so
deceleration?
That's actually a really good description of it, is that there's no deceleration. And so it's like your entire nervous system just goes boop and just stops. Because and so this is the other thing that Buddy brought up.
Oh man, dude, that's not a matter of if you're going to get injured. That's a matter of when you're going to get injured, right?
So Buddy brought up
all the injuries.
So the 2 times a year that NFL typically has injuries is the first 2 weeks of camp, and then immediately after the bye week. Because what happens on the bye week? He's like, those dudes go to Vegas, they go drink, they go party, they go crazy. And then that next week, they just get crushed because they never had an off ramp and an on ramp. It was just like off and then back on. And it was just, just destroyed.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yep. Like that makes total sense. So you got to be able to allow for, what movie was it? Like the spaceship they came out too fast and they have to decelerate before they hit the Earth's atmosphere. They'll bounce off or whatever. Anyway, you get my point. Yeah. But I didn't ever realize you gotta let your body coast and decelerate a little bit before going to a hard stop.
So I think it was, and I don't know exactly who ran the study, but it was on Olympic athletes. And so most people assume that it's an increase in volume that generally leads to injuries. But what they found is that it was either an increase or a decrease of 10% or more is typically what led to injuries. And so I think the surprising part of that is that the decrease of 10% also leads to injuries. So like the last, 2 days because of work, like I missed, I was traveling yesterday and then work today. So I've kind of missed some training. So like, I've got to make sure I get some cardiac output or something in today for movement. Otherwise, I'm pretty susceptible for injury leading up to tomorrow's training.
Oh. Now I'm kind of cringing going, I need to move more.
And that's, I think that's the thing where, a lot of people that are inconsistent, like you don't necessarily recognize it because there's too much inconsistency. But then there's this period where you get super consistent, your body gets used to it. And then you miss, and that's where you have a lot of issues at the higher levels.
That's great. Why'd you look at me when you said all that, though? I'm just joking.
You're all on the same page.
That happens a lot in the military, especially with like the younger enlisted. That I noticed in the last shop I was at is, somebody would kind of hurt something. Maybe they'd go into a profile, they just stop working out entirely. And then, time for a PT test. And now they're pushing as hard as they can. And guess what? Now they're actually hurt or hurt worse than they were before. And then they go back and profile. And it just continues that cycle. And that was one thing I did within the limited bounds I had to do it. I was like, everybody's showing up to PT, even if you're in a profile, you're going to walk for 45 minutes. You are going to do something to move your body. And you're going to do everything that's not on your profile.
That's one of the things that kind of sucks as you build up this volume, especially on some of these higher level programs. Like it's like, you've got to have a taper off of it. Otherwise you start having issues really quick, but as long as you're on
I asked you why, like all of a sudden you took me from 3 rounds of the 1x20 down to you backed me down to 1 round of 1x20. And, I still want you to push for the volume, but I only want you to do 1 round so you can have something in the tank for what's coming up. I'm like, you want me to do what to what? Because why? And I had to, okay, so I guess we're just kind of like, and you said the word downshift and the light bulb went on. I'm like, oh, okay. So lower output, lower gear, and we're getting, because I think you even said you have to allow your body to heal up from what you've done. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I kind of feel like my role here is to translate for everybody listening to feel like that they're not like complete boobs, and like, what they just say?
well, it gets bad anytime you have more than 2 military dudes in a room at a time. We immediately default to whatever that language is.
Oh, that part's fine. I can speak your dialect after 18 years of hanging out with you. It's the physical fitness that, like, Nathan, what did you just say about percentages and and this and that. And so now I feel like my job is to look to the listener or viewer and go, so what they meant was, if
international translator.
I'm the UN of the fitness translator.
With those little earpieces.
I got a question about footwear, if we can circle back to that.
Yeah.
So is it better just to find out the environment and the work you're going to be doing and then plan for that versus try to shove a shoe into an environment that it's not supposed to be in? Like, is that the better way to go?
That's probably my, so.
Did I lose you?
So I would say that, so when I deploy,
not sure enough, Austin.
I only bring one pair of basically just generic shoes, civilian tennis shoes. So I generally try to find something that I know is going to handle gravel really well, because there's always gravel everywhere. I try to find something that is somewhat mostly minimalist for the gym. I may bring another pair of running shoes, but I generally try to have it all in one shoe if possible. And I try not to do as much concrete running while I'm over there.
Sorry, guys, I lost you there for a second. I moved locations, and we're in a wood, like a house that all the beams of the walls are made out of like solid wood. So I moved 15 feet, and all of a sudden it sounds like I'm in a Faraday cage. So
did you get any of the answer there?
I didn't get any of it. As soon as I asked my question, all of a sudden I lost you. I'm like, did they even hear me? I'm sorry. So yeah. To restate, do you find yourself, is it better to plan for the environment with footwear versus trying to just, shove whatever you got? What's your take on that?
So what the way I answered is basically when I go on deployment, I try to find a shoe that covers all the bases from, I know there's going to be gravel. I know that there's probably going to be some type of gym, whether it's a gym in a box or it's an actual gym. It's probably going to have either concrete or we're going to make some kind of, like on my 2017 tour at the Firebase, we just had a bunch of overhead covers left over that are just plywood. So we use that as a lifting platform, quote unquote. So I try to find a shoe that kind of covers all of that and try to minimize my running on concrete and keep it to just trails. So I try to find a shoe that fits all that, which isn't easy, but it's getting better with the more options on the market. And I think the other thing too is, like, if you have something like a running shoe, it's not optimal for lifting for sure. So I would definitely look at the environment probably first.
Right.
All right. Sounds good. I wasn't looking for confirmation bias, but I was like, this seems to be the observation that I'm taking. This is my takeaway from what, the sharper tools in the drawer in this conversation we're talking about. So I was like, well, I want to just make sure I'm picking up what you're putting down. Because I've asked Ephraim, like, so is it like this? He's like, no, actually, it's like the exact opposite of what you just said. Now he did it with his like, hey man, so no, it's actually like this, but good try though, champ. He was relentlessly positive in his support, but he was like, no, actually the takeaway. So kind of like, I am Groot, yeah, I am Groot, yeah, I am Groot. No, it's actually the opposite. You said everything. So
what have you guys found?
Yeah, that work seems to make fairly good sense. With some of this stuff, like the cutting and stuff like that, I haven't really done much of that. So took me a while to find something that worked well for that I could then just go straight into lifting.
Sure. Yep.
I don't know if I've really found that answer back again, because all of my shoes managed to crap out on me within like a week of each other. So it's like, and good shoes aren't cheap. So
sure.
Trying to prioritize what do I actually need right now and what can I get by with for a little bit.
Yep.
So, and then that's those Sportivas I was talking about earlier. I haven't been able to find them in stock anywhere. Otherwise, I probably would have picked up a pair of those, because as much as their lifespan sucks, I haven't found a better answer to that question yet.
Yep. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to look for is probably the biggest discrepancy is big fluffy shoes in the gym are probably going to be the biggest mismatch. Everything after that, you can kind of figure out.
Yeah. It's amazing how many high-end shoes aren't made for lateral movement. Like Salomon trail runners, everybody's excited about them, but you will literally rip the sole off the bottom of the shoe and the glue will give way like poor alibi. Trying to do sideways stuff or squats or things where you pronate a little bit outboard. And besides that, they're so narrow. They're made for like, manorexic French hikers that are like, 5'6", and you just gotta. So I'm picking up what you're putting down. That just like we do everything else with, basically from the knees up kit, from the knees down. Now we have to match the footwear to the work. So,
yep. And the tactical crowd isn't exactly always the best at looking at foot function. So they may or may not have the best.
Well, we buy all our stuff in a tribe. We see what everybody else is wearing on Instagram, and we just buy that, whether it's good for us or not. So
looks cool.
Yeah, looks good.
I even look at those. Say like those widely popular, the Cross. What are they? The Solomon. What are the running trail shoes? They look really well.
The Speed Cross.
Yeah.
Speed Cross. There you go. Yeah. So like those look really aggressive. The tread is pretty aggressive. It's nice. But after actual use in some, and I didn't even put lots of weight on it, that the rubber they use on that outsole is entirely too soft for the intended purpose, to protect, on a trail, on a uneven terrain. And it's built kind of, so there's even new from the factory, and I've seen every pair that I've come across has it. So it is prone to allow your foot to roll on the outside, to the outside. The sole, the last, is built on a angle that actually pushes your foot to the outside. And so there's if you're not careful, doing the lateral movement or even walking for that matter, it can absolutely push your foot to the outside angle of your foot. So if you ever check it out, if you ever see some in the store, put them on and just normally walk your foot from the back to the front. And I'm not even talking, because of my weirdness, but you will feel your foot roll to the outside. When you point it out to somebody, have them do it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you are right. It's a little to the outside." It's like, well, I'm not pronating, but it's almost like there's a wedge on the inside of your foot pushing that. But it's again, there isn't a wedge. It's just how that sole is, how they're both made, and that in itself is not so great because it's a taller shoe anyway. Yep. So you get almost almost half an inch of height just wearing those shoes. And great for a guy like me, like, heck yeah, I'll take it every height advantage I can get. No, but it's not great for any type of lifting. It's just too spongy on that side of it. The instability that shoe actually creates, it's not all that great when we're working out. I mean, maybe I guess on the range you kind of can look cool, but it's just not. It's not supportive for anything that I use. Like those are casual kick around. They're like my house shoes now.
Sure.
they stay on in the house to keep my feet warm instead of moccasins right now. Like that's it.
Okay. Since we are also talking about environments we find ourselves in, what is your all's go-to range shoe right now?
I usually go with probably my Merrell trail shoes. Honestly, they're they don't make them anymore. I think it's the All Out Blaze Aero, super breathable. I'm actually not a huge fan of the arch in it, but the grip on it, like if you hike with it, you can hike on any terrain, any environment, and it sticks like a billy goat. Like it sticks right on there. But that's what I use for a trail shoe right now, or a range shoe. So both, really.
I'm bouncing between my clapped out hole where the pinky toe is Sportiva running shoes, or my I've got a pair of a Solo like approach hiking boots.
Nice.
just depending on what I'm doing, I'll throw those on occasionally because they're not insulated. They don't have Gore-Tex or any crap like that in them. So they're the coolest wearing boot that I have. And if I'm shooting a 2-gun match or something like that, they're supportive enough where, yeah, running around in gravel, crap like that, I know I'm not going to like twist an ankle or do anything weird. So they're kind of like the minimum viable there.
I'm a keen GDC right now, for the most part. It's just a very big toe box, leather, breathable, non-Gore-Tex boot. Cold weather stuff on the range and stuff for the Las Sportivas that have our mountain boot that we have from them, and that's about it. I mean, other than that, it's just a normal, I treat it again something that supports the ankle. So issue boots work as well, obviously when I'm in, but anything else is just something that covers my ankle that supports it. Like I said, big toe box, something flatter without a big arch or anything like that.
Something you may look into, Ephraim, and I didn't even think about this as a rain shoe, but Zero has a daylight hiker, and it's actually a pretty solid shoe because it's a hiking shoe, but it's minimalist, and it's a mid height, so it supports the ankle.
Zero? You said it's Zero?
Yeah, XERO.
Okay.
And that's what most of my shoes are, and I don't think I have them in here, but I'll show you these are the Prio, if the camera will actually pick it up, maybe.
Yeah, I see some of it.
Yeah, because it doesn't think it's a human, so it doesn't show it. But yeah, it's Zero XERO. They're a company here in Colorado. Almost everything's minimalist. They're not necessarily minimalist just to be minimalist. Like a lot of them are just like, I'm just going to put a sock on a piece of rubber. But what they try to do is they try to optimize foot function over anything. So like their 360s actually got a little bit of cushion in it, and some people in their Facebook group are like, "Oh, this cushion, this is garbage." It's like, bro, it's just there it still optimizes foot function, but now you have more cushion for making agility and doing the speed stuff that some of the stuff that we do, or that kind of stuff. So
I had a pair, and I didn't like them because I think they were actually a little too small. And I've been wanting to retry them because it came out with a trail hiking boot again. Yep. Vivo Barefoot, is it? Vivo or?
Oh yeah.
Zero. Oh yeah, the Vivo Barefoot. Yeah. Yeah, they're similar, very similar design.
Okay.
Yeah, hey guys, I apologize for the interruption. I got to bounce and go make Mama some food. So I'll let you guys talk to you later.
Yeah.
Later.
Peace out, training bros. All right, later. Bye-bye.
Sweet. Now it's just us.
Yeah.
So what was I also wanted to look at there was another brand, Lems. I haven't tried those yet, and I've heard really good things about them. They have a couple hikers, sneakers, etc. I guess if you're really into it, you're gonna be like a sneaker file or a shoeophile for all the types of boots and all, or shoes and sneakers and stuff, if you're even doing any sort of work. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of, if something works, I'll buy a couple. Just to save my time and effort. Same with like jeans or something. I find some good pair, I'm gonna buy a few just to last me. But those seem to be pretty good. Combat boots, when you're really movement for a while, I'm a big fan of a boot that actually has a heel, contrary to certain people, like the Ultimas.
Yep.
Or excuse me, not Ultima minimalist, but you have those several. You remember the old Ultima jungle boots? They had a heel, like a Panama sole and everything. So when we're talking combat boot, having that heel definitely sometimes is a benefit in multiple terrain types of things. But then there's also, again, why did we start putting like Welco soles and Ripple soles on boots? Because for certain things, like if you're just going to be walking on the road, rucking forever, like it's pretty good to have sneakers on your feet instead of a boot. You know, there's a science to that. So I don't think there's with like anything, if you're going to be doing it well or a lot, there's not a one multi-tool for everything. You are bound to have to get a couple different things to optimize what we're talking about. And as we said right at the beginning, you know, the mission drives the equipment. So that's just that's always how it's going to be.
Do you want to get into more of the equipment stuff, or we cover most of that?
I just had one thing. So I at first I was going to get really into, you know, all kinds of equipment, all kinds of split squat bars and everything. But then I really thought about it, and I wanted to get into your thoughts and everyone else's thoughts on equipment for on the road. What is our bare minimum stuff that we can bring to continue on stuff? Because again, always try, and we've talked about it before, you know, at some hotels you can make do as long as they have a couple things, and if you bring a couple things to supplement it, you can do it. But it's not like I'm bringing, you know, a 45-pound kettlebell in my carry-on wherever I'm flying and everything. So, and you can't always catch a break and have a good hotel that has a decent gym, especially during COVID. A whole bunch of them were shutting them down. You couldn't even use them. You could sneak in, but they'd try to kick you out. So ask me how I know. But you can. There's a couple things, you know. I went on Amazon. First thing first was got, you know, a full suite of resistance bands. You know, that, you know, both small, large, the thinner, the thicker, the whole nine. And, you know, cost wise, I mean, you spend $75 or less for a whole set, for all of it, and you're sitting pretty good when it comes down to it. You just gotta really think about it sometimes to adjust what you're doing, what kind of muscle movements you're doing. So I was just thinking if you guys had anything that someone maybe sold outright as a system or what have you, that you guys found that were supportive, just throwing in your bag if you traveled, or your vehicle, or what have you.
Yeah, Go ahead.
I picked up a set of Pat McNamara's bands, Get You Some Bands, or whatever he calls them. And those I've actually been really happy with. The round profile is definitely a little bit nicer pulling in your hand than like the squared off ones. Only thing I haven't found that I don't like with them is some of the ankle band work. That round profile tends to want to slip off your shoe more. And I try to avoid being that guy that gets smashed in the face by the band outstretched. So I've got one like flat band that I use for that. But yeah, and they're stout. Like the heaviest and the next one down. I was anchoring them to, this was during like the height of the lockdown when I was locked on base. I had like some webbing, some like weird exercise bar thing I got at the BX, and those bands, and I was able to do like fairly heavy feeling deadlift type movements with those bands, anchoring them.
Was that with a bar that connected like to the ends of the bands, and you used it that way?
No, this had a split in the middle. So like the two halves threaded together. So you had like a 5 pound on each end.
Yep.
It's all that I could find. I'm sure I was probably closer to breaking the picnic table I was on than doing any damage to those bands. But they were, they were stout.
Yeah, I think for me, like I've gone on. So a lot of my recent deployments and even previous, I've done a lot of austere stuff just because of the environments we're in. And I find that most time on deployments, you're not too terribly off. Even in the middle of nowhere where, you know, we're on a base that doesn't exist and no address. We had a gym in the box that got donated by one of the soft teams. So we were able to use that. But every time I brought the bands, that's generally about all I need. So during this lockdown, the only thing I really added is I've got the regular bands that are kind of like, Ned was talking about the flat ones, but then I got this little cheap kit. I think it was on Amazon, and it was like the tubular ones that you got to hook handles up to. And so that pretty much covered most of the bases between those two. And when I travel, like I travel pretty light. So I'll generally bring the mini red band and probably the black one. And I can do most of my contralateral aerobic circuits with that. And then just whatever I find locally. Something you could look into too, if you got more space, is a water bag. I want to say they're like $30-$40 on Amazon. So once you get to your location, just fill it up with water and you got like 40 pounds, you know, and in basically a big old nylon plasticky type material without, it's like a sandbag, almost got handles on it, and you can chuck it around and run with it or whatever. So.
Oh, that's pretty, I never even thought about a water bag type system. Well, that would absolutely make sense for some stuff.
Yep. I started looking at it because who was it? It wasn't Dan Fichter. It was Chris Corfist. He uses that with a lot of his track. So he works primarily with high school track and some pro guys. But what he does is he have a lot of the drills. He actually puts the water bag on their back, which forces them to kind of adapt to it. And, you know, it's just extra stimulus for the most part.
Awesome.
But yeah,
I've definitely seen those around.
Cheap and easy. You know, instead of buying a Viper thing, which is like, you know, $250, you just buy a water bag. Do the same thing, only better.
Totally.
And most people don't know that. No, go ahead.
Like the TRXs, I know those are. You still find them around. They're super popular, but I think a good set of rings and some adjustable straps, I think would be more useful in most cases, at least for mostly how I end up using those.
Yep.
Just the way the TRX is set up, it always seems to tear up my arms and stuff like that.
Yeah, the buckles aren't good.
No, TRX is. I have repurposed a whole couple of TRXs and made just rings. You can just get them. You can buy ring replacements and stuff. That's way easier. Better. They're good for and
they're really good for row movements, and they're good for sticking your feet in. But outside of that, like the other pulls, like doing pull-ups, doing dips, doing anything where push-ups, you know, where your forearms are scraping up against it, it's just not as good as rings.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to.
But that is one of the things we did have at the Firebase. I had my bands. Obviously, you got your IOTV and your helmet and all that other stuff that you can toss on to do weighted step ups or whatever. So I did a lot of that. There was a big, huge tire that we had on one of the pieces of equipment that broke down. So I do step ups on that for like 20 minutes, which is my kit. Bands I did the strength workouts with, and then one of the Marine captains had brought a TRX. So between those three, I was able to get quite a bit in. I do like, you know, I'd alternate between lunges and step ups. So some days I do 20 minutes of lunges or 40 minutes of lunges or 20 minutes of step ups or whatever.
Awesome.
I think it's easier to do conditioning stuff. You know, you can just, you know, with or without weight, do, you know, an hour of lunges, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
You know, John Brookfield had this thing called the weight of water. And so you've got, you know, a 5-gallon bucket on one side, 5-gallon bucket on the other side. One's filled with water, one isn't. And then you get a shot glass, and your goal is to lunge, scoop, and then transfer, lunge, drop it in the bucket.
Oh, wow.
And your time is done when you transfer the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff like that's pretty easy, pretty cheap. But again, you still want to be working a lot of the strength stuff too. And that's where it gets a little bit harder, especially some of the speed and explosive and all that kind of stuff. I made do with some bands and some sandbags and stuff on this last one, which is the gym in the box that we had some access to. And then they're like, oh, I got to lock that down because of, you know, whatever. It's full of dangerous germs or whatever. But even though it's outside in the UV light, but you know.
Don't make too much sense.
Yeah, well, just have to deal with it sometimes. But yeah, that was kind of my makeshift stuff. As I had the bands for speed deadlifts. I think I simulated the split squat by doing. I think I just did bands on that too. where I was just doing grabbing the bands really low and doing the speed split squats that way.
How do you see like some of the eccentric and isometric stuff as far as like maintaining strength? Do you think that would fit into kind of the austere environment?
Isometrics for sure. I know that's a lot of the big coaches are just like, man, when I want to get these kids strong, I just have them do 5-minute ISOs. Not fun, but
no.
you don't need a whole lot of weight. I mean, even on something like, you can again use a band and you can do a bench press movement and just hold it for 5 minutes, like ready, set, go. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, or just split stance squats with your plate carrier on and hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hold for 5 minutes, ready, set, go.
Ooh, gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nathan had me on a bunch of that stuff right when I first started working out with him. And I was like, there was a point I was like, why am I even going to the gym? I just stand there and sweat. What's the point?
This house is a prison on planet bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think when you're training the aerobic system, there's so much you can do. It's when you really are trying to train that strength and power that it gets a little, you got to make some stuff up, and you got to, like, throwing some things is pretty easy. You can just find some stuff and just like, well, I'm just going to chuck this rock in the park, you know?
Yep.
It's one of the things that came out of, I want to say, it's like something like the Athlete Gene, or I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was just basically the premise that everybody talks about, like, oh, genetics is such a huge driver, and why do certain groups of people tend to do really good at this activity, whether it's band, music, singing, or sports. But what they found is that a lot of the kids that have like the really nice facilities tend to suck, and the ones that have the really austere, like dirty, grungy basement type training facilities, they do really well because in their mind they haven't perceived that they've achieved it yet. Versus the kids that have the really nice facilities, whether it's a D1 college or whatever, they perceive that they've already made it, subconsciously or consciously, and that has an effect on their performance.
Yeah, that's a good
point.
Those
cats in prison every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's like we say on deployments, like everybody gets huge, whether they get jacked or fat. It's just like everybody gets the same amount of food or the same access to the same amount of food. They get the same access to the same resources, and it's just, it's what you do with it.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, I gotta bail. Got to help some kids with some homework.
Yeah, man. Let's do it again, and we'll try not to be like a month in between. But
oh no, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always good times.
Guys.
All right, I will talk to you guys later, and see you in the app doing some training.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.